Hello everyone, welcome to a tarot reading for the collective. This one might be a bit lengthy because we are going through Mercury going into Capricorn and Chiron going direct in Aries. So, just to talk a little bit about those celestial movements. I know more about Mercury and Capricorn than I do about Chiron and Aries, but I'll do my best. And if you think of anything else that you want to add about these movements, please go ahead and add them in the comments. So Mercury in Capricorn. So Mercury is the planet of messages, communication, and the technology that allows us to communicate. And Capricorn is about structure and rules and by the book type of thing. So when Mercury and Capricorn are together, we want to think about strategy. We want to think about schedules and making a plan and strictly following it. We want to think about logistics, like what time, how do we get there? What is the main goal? Like very logical, very planned out things, very structured and very strategic. So that's the kind of thing we want to think about when Mercury and Capricorn meet, or like during the time that Mercury is in Capricorn. These are the themes that are going to come up for us. Then when Chiron goes direct in Aries, we want to think about themes about, we want to make sure that we look back on where we came from or where we started, and we want to take a look back from the point we are at in now and see how far we've come. And we want to celebrate that distance because we're no longer whoever we were when we began or where we came from. We're a different person. Hopefully, that's the hope. Chiron is known as the wounded healer. So Chiron typically helps those who have been wounded in some way, not just physically, but emotionally, psychologically, etc. He gives the wisdom that even though we are wounded, we can still move forward. We can still move on with our lives. We can still live because we are alive. And we can bring value even though we have been through, whatever we've been through, and however it has affected, however our experiences have affected us, we can still give something. We can still create something out of it, or bring something, learn something from it. Especially Chiron going direct in Aries, where when Chiron was in retrograde, it's possible that a lot of us were feeling a bit worthless, or we felt like we didn't deserve what we had, or we were dealing with imposter syndrome, where we felt like we were frauds, or like we were constantly comparing ourselves to people who had more experience in whatever it is that we were in. But when Chiron goes direct in Aries, we want to remember that we bring value to whatever it is that we are in. Like, I'm thinking fields of study or a specific hobby. Like, there are people out there who are better at it than us, and that doesn't mean that we shouldn't do the hobby, whatever it is, because it brings us the joy and spark of life that we need to thrive. Without it, we lose the point of meaning in our lives. Chiron going direct in Aries is about taking action in order for us to begin to have feeling in it again, whatever it is. We're going to start feeling like the effort we put into our hobby or specialization or whatever, it's going to be returned in some way, shape, or form. We have our own way of doing things in this particular thing that in and of itself brings value to whatever the thing is. It could just be that we discover that we actually really, truly, genuinely enjoy doing this thing. And that can bring its own reward in several different ways. But first we have to understand how much joy this thing sparks in us. And that will motivate us to keep going, to keep taking action, to plan and study and create a structure around it so that we can dedicate at least a good chunk of time to it as often as we can. The seeker, and if you'll notice, there's a woman and a man. So if I flipped it and got it reversed, it's a man and a woman. And then we got the element of air. So here with the Seeker card, I'm thinking that we are going to start listening to our unconscious. It could take the shape of all sorts of different things. Of course, I will always say paying attention to your dreams is the main way, but if that's too difficult for you to attempt, you can start creating art or writing poetry or just writing in like stream of consciousness writing and just getting everything out, especially if it's something that clears your mind. It's associated with the signs of Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra. But also, we want to think about the power that air has. Air brings the storm. It can be chaotic, but it's also life-giving. It is the stuff we breathe that gives us life. Looking at the Seeker card, and I'm noticing that it's in the sky. It's in the clouds. The setting is in the air. And I can't remember where I read it, but I think there was an ancient belief that dreams came through the air and into our minds when we were asleep. And symbolically, sure, that could be seen as being true, as a symbol, not as actual truth, because our dreams are very... What am I doing here? It's very airy things. They are essentially uncatchable. It's because these dreams have this airy quality. When you move through air, like you can see this when you light incense or snuff out a candle and let the smoke kind of dissipate. The smoke gives structure to the air that it's floating through, because you can see it. And if you run your hand across it, it moves and kind of does air physics stuff. The smoke will dissipate faster. So that's kind of what the formation, the structure of a dream is like. It's very easy for physical awakeness to make it be like your hand running through smoke. If the smoke is your dream, your hand is consciousness. It's you waking up. I don't know if that makes any sense, but we'll go with it. Yeah, that's how I am kind of connecting the Seeker card to the Air card. It makes sense to me, but I hope it makes sense to everyone else. Mercury in Capricorn and Chiron direct in Aries. We have the Seven of Cups. We have the Three of Pentacles. We have the Star card. So Mercury in Capricorn. I'm seeing that with these two cards, the Seven of Cups and the Three of Pentacles, where the Seven of Cups is Mercury and the Three of Pentacles is Capricorn. So I'm not going to lift up the Star card for you to see it because of reasons. So the Star shows up at night, and at night we fall asleep. So if we pay attention to the Seeker and the Air cards, and we look at the Star card, this is going to be a moment in which we will try to make contact with the unconscious. But because the Star card, like, one foot is on the ground and one foot is in the water, we want to make this a slow process. This isn't a direct plunge into the unconscious. That's actually, it can be quite dangerous, so I wouldn't recommend it unless you have proper guidance through it. There are certain ceremonies that allow you to take a direct plunge into the unconscious, but if you don't have proper guidance, it can really mess you up. So I'd say don't do that unless you're ready for it. But the Star card, like, I keep saying the one foot on the ground, the other foot in the water, and that makes me think it's a very slow walking into the unconscious. So the earth in the Star card is the conscious side, and then the water is the unconscious. That's usually the symbolism that goes with it. There are times when earth can represent the unconscious, but it's usually like you're going into a cave, or you're going into the basement of some building, or you're, sometimes if it's a nightmare, you're like being buried alive. So Mercury in Capricorn, the Seven of Cups, we're thinking about making dreams into reality. Maybe rather than dreams, we should say goals. And now you're with the Three of Pentacles, we're thinking about making a list of what is needed to achieve the goals that we have in mind. And with the traditional meaning of the Star card, our hope is that we will achieve the goals. Like, it will no longer be a list that is kept in our mind, but it will be something that is in reality. We have something to show for it, and it's definitely achievable goals. They're not just these, like, oh yeah, I'll get to it eventually. Not that type of goal. This is something that, like, oh, I've made it to this mark in the plan. Now I know that I can make it all the way to the end and achieve the goal. Like, it's no longer something that you dream about, it's actually something that you are achieving and taking action to. Like, you're motivated to implement the plan that you've created. We have judgment. So judgment is a call to action. This is the purpose. This is the reason. This is the motivation. The call to action feels like it's a divine purpose that will only come from making an attempt at listening to your inner self. And just sometimes even just making the attempt of listening to your unconscious can make your unconscious messages feel stronger as you continue with contacting your unconscious, because your unconscious picks up on this, like, oh, you're paying attention now. Like, let me give you messages, the messages I've been holding back on. There will come a point where something starts to feel like it's a message from the divine, but it's a deeply, deeply rooted archetype in your psyche. And we also have to be careful with getting in touch with that because it's a shadow aspect, and we have to tread lightly. Again, because if we plunge into it, a lot of ugly things will start roaring their head, and we may not like what we become if we allow it to possess us. So it's always a gentle approach that is needed. I mean, of course, some will just take the plunge and deal with the consequences as they come, but again, they're not going to be good. It's not going to be anything good unless you make it through the other side. But that is a really difficult journey. So I'm going to keep saying, word of caution, don't do this lightly. And by this I mean contact your unconscious. But do start listening, because there's this whole other side of you that we all have. This side where there are things we don't pay attention about ourselves, or we kind of suppress consciously or unconsciously. There's stuff about ourselves that we don't want others to know about, and we don't want to know about ourselves, and so we ignore them, suppress them. But this creates something else. It creates our shadow aspect, and that's a part of ourselves as well. But making contact with it, especially suddenly and directly, can be dangerous in a lot of different ways, and I'm not going to explain how or why, but if you've been through it, you will understand what that means. There is a way to make it to the other side, but it does take a lot of guidance, a lot of patience with yourself. It takes a whole journey, and it also takes a lot of understanding. You have to understand what is happening, because if you don't, you'll suppress this stuff, whatever it is, you'll suppress it again because you don't understand it. You're not conscious of it. You might be a little aware of it, but like you don't fully understand what's happening. So you'll suppress it again, and it'll be a thing that repeats and repeats and repeats until, oh, that's what's going on. Like, until eventually you will understand. Sometimes we never get to that point of understanding, but that's sometimes that's just how it is. It's just a thing we can't overcome. And that is also a dangerous thing, because the cycle keeps repeating. We'll continue to repeat. Anyway, I've gone on a huge tangent, so I'm going to pull another card. We have the Strength card. It talks about patience and understand. Basically, everything I was just talking about, what is required for you to understand your unconscious. You need patience, you need understanding, and acknowledgement that you have these aspects that you don't like about yourself, and that you will continue to go through their cycle if you don't come into awareness of these aspects. And the trouble is that it's never a comfortable thing to do. It's incredibly uncomfortable. It is incredibly difficult. A lot of chaos can come from it if you don't understand what you're doing. You can fall into bad, unhealthy coping strategies. With the Judgment card, I'm also seeing some people will want to do this sort of inner work, and it feels like a divine calling. I'm seeing all of the people, especially the people all the way in the background here, and it makes me think of popular trends where, and we've all probably done this, where we just do stuff or buy stuff because everybody else does or buys the thing. And I'm a little afraid that there's this awakening thing going on, but it's like some are awakening because that's just in the zeitgeist, like that's just in the collective. And so they're like, oh yeah, I think I understand what they're saying, but they actually don't. And it's an inauthentic awakening for them because they think this is what they should be talking about, but they're just following a trend, and they're not really understanding that they're doing that, or they're like suppressing that they're doing that. So there's that I'm picking up on. It's just funny because I was just talking about feeling like we were imposters way early in the reading, when I was talking about Chiron going direct in Aries, because when Chiron was in retrograde, there was this collective feeling of being an imposter, right? We felt like we weren't qualified or didn't have any reason to contribute to whatever it is that we were contributing to. But now I think because we felt like an imposter, we can pick up on people who actually are imposters, especially when it comes to this awakening awareness, or beginning to listen to our unconscious, which is a type of awakening. Then we have the King of Wands. The King of Wands makes me think of a very bright light, a very bright candle. And this is because the Page of Wands makes me think of a small candle in a very dark room. The knight, or sorry, I keep saying that, but the King of Wands makes me think of bright lights, a big candle or several candles lighting up a room. And when we think of light, we think of enlightenment, we think of becoming aware, bringing awareness, bringing consciousness, stepping into the light. And air feeds the fire, and the King of Wands is the fire. So our inner fire, now that Chiron is going direct in Aries, our inner fire is incredibly strong and bright and warm, and we're ready to do what is necessary to achieve our goals. We're ready to do what is necessary to begin listening to our unconscious, to bring it back to what the reading is actually, what the reading has actually been about. But the King of Wands does things carefully. The King of Wands, like I think of a very controlled and tamed fire. And that doesn't make it weak. Fire is still fire. It will still burn. It will still cause a lot of damage. But if we contain it, like in a bonfire or a hearth, we are capable of utilizing it as a tool. And it's not just burning. It's not just destroying, causing injury or damage. Star card also talks about a light in the darkness. So I was just talking about a candle in the darkness, and I'm looking at the star card again, and it's starlight at night. It's light in the darkness. It's a symbol of hope. That's the traditional meaning of the star card. It's very hope filled. And I think going into 2026, we are very hopeful that this will be the year we will become more complete and more whole. And that only begins by listening to our psyche, the part of ourselves that we suppress, ignore, deny, etc. And that only comes through our dreams, paying attention to our dreams, paying attention to the art we create, and really paying attention to how art makes us feel. And it's not just art, it could be many different things, which the list is inexhaustible. So whatever it is for you, it's on there, it's on the list. I think that is become the seeker, become someone who pays attention, who listens to your dreams, and you'll become more aware and more whole, a more individuated person, integrated person. Well, happy 2026, and I will see you all next time. Bye.